Okay. I'm still seeing. Okay, public panel has changed. Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Very much welcome. Welcome to this session. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Ricardo Vitorino. I work at Ubiwhere, currently as head of innovation, especially focused on smart cities and communities. Um, and we Speaking of communities, ideally we'll be having this event together in the sunny and lovely city of Aveiro in Portugal, where the company is headquartered. However, the current circumstances that we are facing nowadays, unfortunately, have forced us to do this remotely using technology we are used to using every day in partnership projects and collaboration and watching other webinars. But being the host, it's our first time. So bear with me because this is a sort of a one-man band here. So I cannot blame the IT guys in the background. Well, being a particular fan of Monty Python, I like to always look on the bright side of life. So today we are able to, without much hassle in terms of logistics, having this session from multiple places around Portugal and also from the Netherlands, where Joanna is based, and stream it live to any other country in the world. So we try to disseminate it all across our partners in Europe, not only our neighbors in Spain, but also in Central Europe, France, Germany, Belgium, Italy, all across Europe, and also in the US, where we have a few new projects starting. And hopefully we can make this humble organization reach all across the world. For those of you who weren't able to join today live, we are streaming this live to YouTube, so you should be seeing myself in YouTube, and the session will be made available in the same YouTube link, so you can watch it many times you want because it will be spectacular. And everyone that signed up and registered for this event will receive a participation certificate to use it in your own curriculum to make sure that you spend the time well and you have learned something. So this is the first of a series of webinar sessions about future mobility. It's co-organized by TICE.PT, so the National Portuguese ICT Cluster. That's why I pronounced it as Portuguese, and by Ubiwhere, a software development research SME, which I proudly represent. I'm tired of speaking, and I want to give the floor directly to Joanna. And just to make sure that you understand how this will go, in every series, in every session, we'll have 3 different perspectives of a specific topic. The topic today is about the future, so we will look towards what's coming next in our urban mobility, in our transportation services, and we'll have a perspective from European policy and European level. We'll have a perspective from the industry in terms of technology, and then we'll have a perspective of a city, what they are doing in Portugal, what pilots are they running, and what will they do next. So being a gentleman, I would like to introduce Joanna first. So Joanna, you can start sharing your screen anytime now. Dr. Joanna Tsanidaki, and I hope I pronounced your name correctly, is originally from Greece. She holds a PhD in European law from the universities of Southampton and Cambridge in the UK, having joined the Ertico team in July 2017 after participating in the supervisory board for 5 years while working as a spokesperson for TomTom, the renowned company for navigation systems and technology. Now, based in the Hague, as far as I know, or it's close by, she is specialized in EU regulation and policy in the fields of mobility and transport, leading the innovation and deployment department, which is responsible for 24 projects and 7 innovation platforms run by Ertico. Quite impressive. So thank you so much for being here. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Ricardo. And I just realized that this is quite long, so my short bio should become even shorter if you don't want to speak so much. So thank you very much for the invitation. First of all, I I'm very honored and happy to be the first speaker of your webinar series. Uh, First of all, because it is an honor to be invited in the webinar series always, but also because this is the hottest topic in on for discussions internally in organizations, ITS stakeholders, in the policy decision making bodies, and so on. How is the future going to be in general, and how is the what is the future of mobility? Because the first thing that stopped in this pandemic was mobility, right? So we live in interesting times, and I don't know if you're going to learn a lot from me, because I heard Ricardo discussing and talking about the certificate, but definitely let's think together and try to reimagine and visit mobility. So that's what I'm going to do. I have 8 slides, and allow me first to show you, to explain to you what is Ethico ITS Europe, eh? Which the organization I represent today. So you see here an impressive list of our partners. There are 120. We are an organization. We are a public-private partnership organization. We were established by the Commission back in '94, when the Commission realized that it's better if all stakeholder groups are put together into a dialogue and work together towards innovation. So these are the partners. I'm not going to stay in that, but this is what we do best. We bring together 8 mobility sectors, because all these partners that you saw before, they come from a specific sector in ITS and mobility, in order to make mobility cleaner, safer, and more efficient. And these partners are service providers such as TomTom, where I was working before, vehicle manufacturers, mobile network operators, public authorities, of course, user groups, traffic and transport industry. So we bring them together. We are not a lobby organization, and we put them around the table and we discuss innovation. How can we do it? How can we close the gaps in ITS, in intelligent transport systems? So the role that we have in mobility, as I said, it's stakeholder engagement. We cannot do, and I think nobody can anymore, um, engage in innovation without having the engagement of the stakeholders, without working with them in a cross-sectoral dialogue. We also organize the ITS congresses every year in Europe, and we co-organize the world ones. International cooperation is also something that we do on behalf of the ITS community, working with the ITS organizations in other parts of the world, like ITS America, ITS Asia Pacific, and so on. And we engage in thought leadership, always with our members. We call it our partnership. So, as I said, nobody can do it alone. And how we proceed towards thought leadership is with the projects that we run with our partners, so funded by the European Community under Horizon 2020 or CEF or other funding lines, and also through our ethical innovation platforms. And these platforms, they're not projects, they don't have an end. They have a beginning, of course, but they don't have an end. And these platforms, innovation platforms, are either technology oriented, like TISA, for example. It's traffic information protocol protocols and standards, or ADASIS or Sensoris. Again, ADASIS is it's there defining an interface and enabling ADAS in automated driving. But we also have not only technology focused platforms, we also have these platforms that are more concept based, or and quite innovative as well. So such as the MAS Alliance, Mobility as a Service, or the TM 2.0, which is Traffic Management 2.0. So through this work of ours, we advocate for smart mobility, of course, because we are in a constant engagement with the European institutions as well, because we are running the projects and also because we are participating in the fora of discussion that are organized by the European Commission. And now that I told you what we're doing and who we are, I'll tell you the exercise that we went through back in 2018. And that was an exercise with 120 members of Vertico, where we put a lot of work into envisioning or creating a vision of how mobility is going to be and how we want it to be in 2030. This is a document. I'm not going to give you all the details, but what the results were these. So we see mobility for 2030 as connected, automated, digital, multimodal, for sure, electric, cross-border, because Europe doesn't have any borders anymore and it shouldn't in transport or mobility, on demand, user-centric, and what is interesting, and I put it in green because that is interesting today, shared. Because now you talk about shared mobility and you're thinking, no way, this is, with this pandemic, I'm not going to share any kind of mobility. And as I said in the beginning, when I started this speech, it is an interesting time that we live in, and it's a very topical discussion because we revisit our vision in Ethico and we look at these bullet points and our whole document, and we're saying, is this still the case? Is our vision still valid? And now, if you look now on shared, you see that today not. In the short term, probably not, because people are afraid, because the public authorities and the authorities generally are not ready to proceed with the idea of shared. But on the other hand, there are schemes out there that are still going for the shared mobility, combining it, optimizing the combination or the integration of shared mobility with public transport, with other schemes, with vans on demand, and so on. So what we see internally, and that's very, very recent, is that on the short term, everyone's going back to the private ownership of cars and so on. And it looks like all this work for so many years is pausing. But pausing is the key word because in the long term, it's going to continue. So I want to also share the policy drivers that we found in this exercise of creating the vision of for mobility for 2030. We found the policy drivers to be holistic mobility management, air quality and climate change, energy sources. This is what moves us to make policy. Safety, cybersecurity, demographic changes. None of this has changed. We saw it back in 2018, in 2019, and none of this has changed. The 2 points that I put in a much bolder, let's say, color, holistic mobility management and safety, they are more prominent now than they were before. Meaning that what I was saying just a second ago, the shared mobility, it has to be integrated in the public transport. We have to be able to look at the mobility as a system and go for a more holistic mobility management so that we cater for the needs that we have today with the pandemic and for tomorrow, the day after of this pandemic. We need to keep safe, not only with the accidents, which is what safety meant traditionally, but health-wise as well. So by having the system where you understand with the rotation of public transport, with as I said, vans that are there on demand, integrated in mobility as a service schemes that are working for the city, and so on, you can actually control and manage traffic and avoid congestion at the same time. And those who know me know very well my big love for traffic management. I actually believe it's the solution to all problems. So going back to the policy drives, I want to finish with this. No, that's actually the one before the end. This slide technology changes are here to stay, and these are technology changes that are coming from the digital revolution or evolution, connectivity, automation. We have been discussing this. We are progressing in this: digital infrastructure, big data, system interoperability, electrification. This is the technology that we have to serve us, to serve our purpose. And this is the time that we should take the opportunity out of this disaster or this catastrophe of the pandemic to sit back and think how we can make mobility better, how in this pose we can restart or reinvent the wheel and do actually follow implement the lessons learned. So, and this is my last slide, regulation and guidelines. If you don't know it, I'm a lawyer. So regulation is my favorite thing. What is not my favorite thing is regulation that is imposed. So, and thank God the European Commission has a fantastic, a perfect scheme for dialogue with the stakeholders, where through fora and platforms and working groups, the Commission is liaising with the stakeholders, us included, member states, experts, and so on, into creating policy and regulation. So the revision of the guidelines for the sustainable urban mobility plans, this is something that happened before the health crisis. ERTICO had the honor of being very much involved in drafting the guidelines for ITS and mobility as a service. But what is happening now is the revision of the ITS directive. It's the revision of the delegated regulations, such as the safety-related traffic information, real-time traffic information. And this revision gives the opportunity to users, to citizens, to organizations, to experts, to everyone, to have an opinion, to say if the directive worked, if the regulation worked, and propose something new. And the Commission is coming from that perspective of wanting to update and have a new regulation out there that's going to serve our needs. So the culmination of this Commission willingness and understanding that we should be going for something better than we have today, and of course following the targets for the halving of emissions, if you like, by 2050 or 2030 according to the UN, and then 2050 is zero emissions, I think, if I'm not mistaken, is the Green Deal. This again was published in November before the health crisis. But what I want to say and actually conclude is that we have the vision. The vision includes all this work that we've done learning our lesson. Now we are at the stage where we can use a number of channels to change what was going wrong before. And the vision remains safe, efficient, and clean mobility with technology serving the purpose. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Joanna. A round of virtual applause for your very, very brief presentation, which I forgot to mention that I'm time tracking you, so making sure that you fill in the clock, and you did wonderfully within the 15 minutes slot. Well, I give the floor to Andrea to start setting up his presentation, who I'll introduce in the meantime. I was wondering that you have already a lot of partners. You mentioned that you have around 120 partners, and that you don't like to impose regulation and you like to share the lessons learned. Is that one of the value proposition that ERTICO presents to SMEs or startups to join their ecosystem? So how would you, for instance, how would you invite Nuno to join with the 4 municipalities to join ERTICO? Which value propositions do you offer?
So thank you for the question. It's indeed, I like it that you take it for granted that it's the same value proposition for public authorities, cities, and companies. It is indeed. It is, ERTICO gives the opportunity to its members to network, to join the community that is working on ITS and working on innovation for ITS. No one interest. It's this, what I was talking about, putting everyone together, belonging in a strong network and putting everyone together to work towards something that is going to benefit all in a win-win-win. Now, especially for for public authorities and cities and regions, we have it's a perfect time in this question because we have launched just yesterday our Ertico City Moonshot survey, which is actually it's not a survey, it's an entire project where we want to understand the needs of the cities better and be able to in a dialogue with them actually inform the entire ITS community on this. So our target is to reach 300 cities globally and on very specific issues. Mobility as a service is one of them, and so on, and be facilitate the satisfaction of these needs or the answering of these needs of the cities through the other stakeholders. Also inform the Commission because the Commission is also working on that. And that is a great opportunity. If Nuno would like to, first of all, help us with the survey and then join our community, that would be fantastic.
That's my role here to
I will
mix
do
and
so.
match and okay, thank you so much, Joanna. Very nice presentation, very nice answer.
Thank you.
We'll have, after the three presentations, we'll have a session for Q&A. We are getting now some questions directly from our YouTube viewers. Thank you so much for that. Feel free to keep up sending the questions because we'll make sure that they are answered either now or either in the report we'll give to our participants in the end. So now passing the floor to a person which is physically closer to me, but in a different place. Andre, you are now the head of future mobility at Ubiwhere. You took a master's degree in business intelligence from the Polytechnic Institute of Coimbra, and you started your career as a software developer for smart cities. Nowadays, you focus on developing and researching products in the field of IoT, business and artificial intelligence, data analysis, and mobility, very focused on open, interoperable, and scalable software architectures, helping Ubiwhere to innovate in the fields of future mobility with solutions like the mobility catalog and the corporate car sharing platform. You have a lot on your plate to talk about, so just jump into it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ricardo, for the kind introduction. So I'll be speaking on Ubiware's behalf on the future of mobility and our vision for it. So Ubiware is a Portuguese SME founded in 2007 with two main areas. So it's telecom and smart cities. We have a great focus on research and innovation, and we develop software solutions from the idea up until the product. Worldwide, we have solutions in more than 55 cities, and these cities really help us define the vision for mobility. And before I talk about our vision, I'd like to introduce the mobility as a service stream, at least in my perspective, which is to go from A to B in different modes of transit without bothering to paying to different suppliers, different tickets, without bothering to looking up different modes of transport just because I want to go from A to B. So this is the dream. And with the help of cities, we built our own vision on mobility as a service, which helps achieving with our vision to help cities achieve this mobility as a service in a step-by-step manner. So our vision is that mobility as a service is enabled by a single central platform, and that this platform works by centralizing the data, letting the main mobility actors view this data in a central place, which will help them adopt the best strategies that will ultimately adapt to their final users and their demographics, which are their citizens, and that's the main focus here. So, but these cities have told us a very important lesson. The lesson is that the road to mobility as a service is very complex and has a lot of hidden issues. For that, we are implementing a path that offers a step-by-step guide to the mobility as a service, which is we first gather private and public operators' data, we integrate it, we harmonize it, we standardize it, then they are able to see it on a single central platform, in which they can define use cases or define their own way of looking into it. And then along the way, along with a defined roadmap, they can integrate new technology, new use cases on top of those, fostering new ways of looking into mobility that will ultimately help them regulate mobility as a service and turn it into a reality. So this path is a step-by-step guide, is basically fulfilled with specific custom-built building blocks that help solve city issues. So we like to call these building blocks bundles, and it all starts with the first bundle, which is interoperability. So interoperability helps us break the silos and allows the domains to communicate with each other, and really unlocks the value of cross-context information by digitizing existing systems or integrating new ones on the same platform. Well, on top of interoperability, we are working on different use cases, such as the on-demand bundle, where we optimize the demand and the supply, because people don't need to know the schedules or the bus stops or the constraints of getting into a bus. They want to go at that time to that specific place. So we offer them an on-demand solution. We offer them a way so they can be from A to B for outside of the city to the city center without the hassle of knowing everything about the network that they are operating. And we want people to get on this city center. And since we are in the city center, we need to accommodate for shorter and different types of mobility, like micromobility that helps us solve last mile delivery, park and ride use cases, multimodal planning that helps citizens to be closer to everything. And these softer mobility schemes helps us on the road to clean mobility. And clean mobility, in clean mobility, with it, we want to create awareness, and we want to reward more sustainable means of transportation and users that use it, all for a greater good, to reach the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, for example, but ultimately to create a cleaner city, a better city. And since every city has its own maturity and our vision is a step-by-step one, we can adapt and build a custom bundle for a given scenario. For example, we've been fortunate enough to work with Deutsche Bahn, one of the largest mobility operators worldwide, just to centralize their operational assets, so escalators, elevators, trains, in a single central platform that helps them have quick insights into the whole network on the same screen. So this was very interesting from the operator side without being the city side, so we can adapt to different scenarios. And these bundles, coupled with the city's vision, are really the building blocks that create this unified vision for mobility as a service for a given city. So it all started long ago, and I remember this very well, with an R&I project called Embers, that are deployments in Porto, Tricala, and Cologne of 3 different domains. Today, we call those domains bundle, and the product is on the market under the name of Mobility Catalog. And since our core expertise is to bring ideas to product, the product is on the market, but new bundles and use cases are being researched and integrated into it. The path is very long, but is one that we are doing in a step-by-step manner, so it's a short issue at a time. So what are those? What are those issues, those new bundles that we are looking for? So I've been talking a little bit about this, but since we think that mobility is as important as health or access to services, because I need to move to get to an hospital, I need to move to get to the basic services, we really think that the next big steps for us in terms of the future is to bridge the gap between mobility as a service and smart cities. This can be done via interoperability, for example, is to build a green marketplace that rewards citizens with green behaviors and helps the cities, on the other hand, to reach the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and the Green Deal, for example, that was previously mentioned in Joanna's presentation. And we are investigating ways to give citizens a voice, since they are the main actor of the city and the mobility ecosystem. They need to tell us and to suggest to us what would be the next steps for us as well. And we are using the most up-to-date networking technologies. Well, it's one of the core areas of the company, such as 5G, V2X communication to enable new bundles, more futuristic bundles, and new use cases for a better, safer, and cleaner city and mobility. So that's our vision for today and for the future. It's a vision of a clean city, a better city, a more interconnected city via mobility, because that's what moves us around in that specific city.
Wow, thank you so much. I didn't, the alarm didn't even go. So you really, you broke a record here. You just did the presentation quite short time. So congratulations. And so Andre, before I give the floor to Nuno in a couple of seconds, you looked a little bit back before, so you mentioned that we go from idea to product, and looking back at the specific example you gave of Embers, which were the main challenges you mentioned? What tell us a little bit about your experience as being part of that project.
So Embers started off with a real specific goal, which was to bring this idea of an interconnected mobility platform, a mobility backend as a service, as we call that in the a while ago. And the main challenges there were really interoperability. It was the first time that I was struck with many different protocols, with many different ways of accessing data, with basically siloed data everywhere. So the awareness for open data was very little at the time. At the time we were on the project, the awareness for interoperability was also very little. And that's exactly one of the best outcomes of the project, is that it really helped us to bootstrap and to foster the possibilities of interoperability, and to really understand that to have a good product on our side, and to have a good basis for a big product, and for the mobility scheme, and for the cities scene as well, we need to get this piece on the bottom. We need to be interoperable with everything, because we are integrating with legacy bus systems. We are integrating with EV chargers that are relatively recent. We are integrating with scooters right now. We are integrating with bike sharing systems. We are integrating with on-demand systems, which are right now are becoming a reality, but will be even a bigger reality in the future. So this piece, just this piece is, as I would like to call it, the golden standard for developing a really good product in this area.
Okay. Oh, thank you so much. And on that note, speaking of cities and their own technology and their own products and projects, I'm very curious and looking forward to hear the perspective of Nuno Cunha, who is the current CEO of the association Quadrilatero. Quadrilatero, as you might see from the icon, is an association of 4 municipalities in the north of Portugal. So alphabetically sorted: Barcelos, Braga, Famalicão, and Guimarães. You might see them in the note. As soon as the pandemic is over, you should come and visit them. They are lovely cities, and we look forward to having you there. And Nuno has started in Quadrilatero in 2010. He has a lot of background on business and a lot of expertise in innovation, with an MBA on business and administration from the University School of Business of Madrid. And he became CEO of different companies in the meantime. And now he's on the public sector, leading these 4 cities. So I really look forward to hearing your experience about the future of mobility, what you're doing now. So feel free to start.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the introduction. The association, it's a private association with the 4 municipalities, with public municipalities. So our association has the cities of Barcelos, Braga, Guimarães, and Vila Nova de Famalicão. one university, the Universidade do Minho, and one Science and Technological Textile Investigation Center, CTEF. I'm betting that no one from CTEF is hearing this right now, because they are in the process of certificating textiles to masks and to security fabrics in hospitals. So they have tons of work right now. Our vision was one to be a reference as a laboratory for urban innovation. Our mission was to streamline the innovative ecosystem and the Quadrilateral brand, and of course, raising funds for cooperation projects that could promote somehow innovation, creativity, and apply research to companies and especially to cities. We have direct influence in about 600,000 inhabitants, a total influence in around 1 million inhabitants. In one, Ricardo already said it, one of the most incredible regions in the world, as you will be able to see in a short video that we run right now. So if anyone was planning to come to Portugal in the near future, you can already book the flights, because it's a wonderful region. We started in 2010 with a different kind of projects in different areas, urban development, mobility, cultural and creativity industries. Just to give some examples, in the urban development, by testing and sharing models for development, we were able to get some attraction of innovative agents to the cities. This is a whole picture of the former Camilo Castelo Branco school that was rehabilitated into the youth house of Vila Nova de Famalicão. In the cultural area, we were able to promote the network between cultural institutions and agents, reinforcing some institutions. We were able to create what we call the Quadrilateral Cultural Card that gives some benefits to the people living in Barcelos, Braga, Guimarães and Famalicão, that are now able to go to Teatro Gil Vicente, Teatro Circo, Casa das Artes, and Centro Cultural de Guimarães. With the benefits are from 50%, so it's a lot. And on creativity, by reinforce the artistic and creative production, we will be able to get some showcases in theater and music. All of that to reinforce the image of Quadrilateral innovation and being a creative region. And of course, mobility, the main reason why Ubiwhere and TICE invite me to be here today. We are currently implementing 3 programs or projects, all integrated ticketing system, a real-time information system, and what we call our map for interconnection of information and transport, transit, and travel services. All of those will be concluded in around 2022, We are hoping that our integrated ticketing system will be implemented in 2021, as long as the real-time information systems. Our map will perhaps in late 2022. And all of this to create what we like to call our CMOV, our Intelligent Mobility Center. On integrated ticketing systems, we want to implement in the municipalities of Quadrilatero. Well, it started with the 4 municipalities of Quadrilatero. Now there are more 10 municipalities in the north of Portugal that joined the board, as we used to say. It's an integrated ticketing system extended to all modes and operators of public collective transport of passengers. It presupposes the definition of a tariff model that is already concluded with a lot of work, and the creation of new tickets that can translate into a greater integration of the existing service with gains for users, but also for the system. And there are different actions in this project. Mainly the creation of the entity that will be responsible for the operationalization and the management of the integrated ticketing system, already concluded, with lots of work too. The definition of a tariff model and the creation of the technological platform that will be launched, I think, in somewhere on 2020, I hope. We are on the implementation of real-time information systems. There are 2 actions in this project. One is for collective public transport, somewhere around 2021. Mainly it's information panels in the main public transport terminals and stops. And we have 3 pilot projects in the cities of Braga, Guimarães, and Famalicão, related to the implementation of real-time information systems to support drivers and the maintenance of urban traffic. In the city of Braga, it's the management of urban traffic. In the city of Famalicão, it's to guide traffic into public parks, and Guimarães, it's mixed between the both. Three different pilot projects in 3 cities that can be shared afterwards by good practice to the other municipalities. And our map, due to the Sea Roads initiative, the cooperative streets, we want to create. We call it map because it's a menu. Menu, it's the region where we are. It's a menu access point. It's a place where we can interconnect and share information of transport, transit, travel services, all kind of things that runs around mobility. So the main actions, it's building pilots and implementing initiatives within the scope of ITS, interconnection and sharing of information about transport services, the development of initiatives that ensure connected and shared mobility services, availability of more and better information. We have information, but it's not shared. The public transport operators have the information, but they don't share it. We want to implement the principles of multimodality, interoperability between all these innumerable existing information systems. We are predicting a minimum of static data around the public transport networks, schedules, location of stops, public transport routes, accessibilities, prices and types of travel tickets, location of electric charging stations, and the location of interface locations, the multimodal stations. And for dynamic data, we have a minimum of schedules updated in real time, geographic locations of vehicles, status of transport services, current status of charging stations, and so on. It will allow us to have a better connectivity to the IT infrastructure, monitoring, very important for us, through what we will call our map platform. We will be able to experimental implementation of CITS services, of street information, information on charging stations, digitalization of ticketing data and traffic data, development of an open information service. This is an action that we have a big focus on what we will call our map open data, and that will help public authorities in terms of getting along with traffic, mobility planning, road safety, and so on. Information services, especially the availability of charging stations, everything that can help the final user to get information and to promote mobility services on demand. Real-time information systems, as I already said it, integration of mobility information systems with other relevant data. This is an action that was specially pointed in the municipality of Guimarães. They have a bunch of data on climatic data and environmental data. They want to combine the different sources of data. And all of this to get to our flag that we are waving for 2 years now. We are waving this flag to the presidents of the municipalities, councillors, public operators, private operators, everybody that has a chance to talk with us. We are waving this flag. And that's where we want to put ourselves on 2023 or in the rate of 2022. And last but not least, this is all possible because of a bunch of hard-headed people that are listed on the right side of the screen there, technicians from the municipalities that work together in preparing the calls for the funds and for preparing the implementation of the projects. And that's it for me. Thank you from my living room in the north of Portugal.
Wow, Nuno, thank you so much. Congratulations. There were a lot of projects you described, so it's quite impressive the everything you're doing. And a few of the projects, as far as I understood, for instance, MAP, the Minho Mobility Access Points, they involve urban infrastructure. I mean, you need to work on the public places outside. So I was wondering if, looking back, what we've inherited from the last mayors, last decisions, last generations, and what we have now as urban infrastructure, do you feel that those are still challenges in terms of implementing new technology? So you need to retrofit, you need to adapt what's out there and make it to work, or is that now just so natural in your process that it's part of the daily job? And while thinking about that, for the future, do you think that these will change more, that we'll see, as I'm picking up some of the questions now on YouTube, if we will see less roads, do you think that we'll have less roads in the future and more public spaces and more of those beautiful photos you've showed of the cultural and youth and everything to promote other types of activities?
Well, I think that the infrastructure is there, and it's up to us to get the maximum of the infrastructure that is already there. Of course, that we need to update it. We need to look it with different eyes, if you want. But I'm not one of those supporters that says that everything was made terrible and now we need to work it again. No, the infrastructure is there, so we have to get the maximum of what we have. And of course, after the Paris Agreement and the launch of the Sustainable Development Goals, especially the SDG 11, all the cities in the world realize that they need to have a different approach. They need to have a different strategy, and that's why you can see nowadays in most of the cities in Europe, in Barcelos, Braga, and Guimarães, and Famalicão too, you can see the whole infrastructure with updates, and now we can have bikes in the middle of the cities, and we have electric charge stations, and so it's not a question of what we had was wrong. It's a question of updating what we had to make it more efficient and to make it more interesting for the end user.
Well done. Very, very well. I don't know, Pedro, if you can hear me, if you can put the question and answer panel just to make sure our viewers get to know that now we are having a overall discussion. And picking up the Green Deal and the Paris Agreement, I would like to ask you, whoever wants to speak first, but ideally, Joanna, feel free to go forward. Which policies are now as a big strategic for the future? Is it the clean mobility promoted by the Green Deal, by the Paris Agreement? Is privacy mentioned from GDPR and making sure that the data that the European Commission wants to safeguard, that our data is not exploited? Is that a big blocking, a big strategy? How do you see it from the ethical perspective?
Yeah, thank you, Ricardo. That's a good question. And I had this slide with what the Commission has put out for a consultation, public consultation. It is all this whole revision, and it's guided now, and that's the difference now with when it was this ITS directive and so on, they were issued. It is the Green Deal that is guiding the actions of the European Commission and European policy, and it is also the enhanced understanding how important the cities are and the needs of the cities, and it's also the new the discussion that is happening now with the new European data strategy. This debate about access to data and data ownership and data availability has been going on for quite some time, and it's now more important than ever, I think. And it was mentioned also by Nuno, where he was talking about, I think, Nuno, you said that some public road operators have data, but they're not sharing it. So in your map platform, so it is data is characterized as being the new oil in our societies, and in mobility, when you have all this interconnection of systems, when you're talking about mobility management, when you're talking about reshaping mobility, if you like, making it greener and safer and so on, you need data from other sectors as well. So I think it was mentioned by Andre when he was discussing about this data collection from energy and here, and all these other areas. We need to have this accessibility. I'm not talking about data for free, because data is a business model for many companies, but we need this accessibility to public data. We need it to private data as well. And this is what the Commission is trying to do with the new European data strategy and the plan for the national access points, the plan for European data spaces, one of them being in mobility. Of course, nothing concrete is out there, but already the Commission is taking these steps, and Ertico and its partnership is involved in this discussion, and we will try to contribute in the best way we can in this. And again, the city moonshot, the Ertico City Moonshot survey is the perfect opportunity for cities to put this forward as well, as a demand.
Very well, well done. And Nuno, you typically involve the municipalities. I'm sorry for mentioning before that it was not a private company. Sorry, but you have to involve the citizens and the cities and the different stakeholders, which is as João Moutinho was mentioning here in the YouTube channel, not the football player. It's necessary, but do you think that without imposing regulations, because Joanna mentioned that she doesn't believe that should be imposed, but you think that without it, we can have true interoperability and solve the challenges you mentioned, and make sure that providers like Andrea can have their lives easier, because different vendors, different entities have their own agenda. So how do you see it?
Well, first of all, my best regards to João Moutinho. I miss him. I miss everybody. I'm in my house with my daughter from, I don't know, the last month with some going outs, but I miss everybody. Well, I think that there's always a different paths to arrive to anywhere. The imposition, I think it's the baddest one. If you can make somehow, if you can make a project that everybody can recognize value, people sooner or later will join in. Just to give an example, we are in a region, we don't have a metro, we have buses, taxis, and rail. The first time that I went to the rail company, I asked them for data, and they told me that they were a private company and data was their business. They will not give me data just because I'm making a project, just because I want to know how many people travel from Alicante to Guimarães by train every day between 8 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock in the morning. It's their business, so they are not going to give me that for free. But if somehow I can make the CMOL, I can make the map. If somehow I can show to that private company that it's from their interest to join along, they will join along and they will give data. If I can show them that joining with us will create value for their company, they will join. If I impose it, and here in Portugal, we have the two solutions were already implemented on the metropolitan area of Lisbon. It was imposed that all the operators will join the system, and in the metropolitan area of Oporto, it was not imposed. They went for it because they recognize value. And in Oporto, it started well, and it's being updated very well. And in Lisbon, as you know, it started very badly. And then they have to change it so that can create value for everybody. I think that the balance between what you want and what you can get, it's a good exercise. It's a good daily exercise. You should always look at what you can have and plan for what you want. Okay, so it's talking to people and show them that it's of their interest to join along.
Makes sense. Makes total sense. And we are running out of time because time flies when we are having fun. No pun intended with transportation. Just to end up with the final question without pushing the patience of our viewers. You mentioned that you miss being again with people. So when this is over, when this pandemic will be over, and teasing the next webinar, which will be about connected mobility. So when we are able to connect people again, physically, not just virtually, the three of you, please give me just a brief summary of how do you think the mobility patterns or behaviors will change? Will it change heavily? Will we focus on micro-mobility, as Andrea pointed out, or will we still have a car-centric, big, massive networks, as Nuno just pointed out?
Joanna?
So I thank you, but I think Andrea should be the one answering because he didn't speak.
Yeah, sure. I can start.
Yeah.
Well, the first thing I want to say is that I won't be able to tell you everything because that would spoil the next surprise for next week. That's connected mobility. So, but and I'll be taking the spotlight out of that specific panel. But I can give you a sneak peek. In my presentation, I definitely talked about networking and how networking can help us to connect mobility. I don't believe that in the next 10 years or 15 years, society will radically change from the car to any transport, to any other transport for that matter. I think that we need to have parallel options for people. So one, that the car is continuing on the road because there are a lot of people, and in Portugal we see that a lot. People love car and love their car and love walking or riding their car, but we should, via some rewarding mechanisms, I briefly talked about that as well, we should try to improve and try to explain to people and to tell people that there are other modes out there and they are good, and we need to make sure that those modes are exactly as good as we promised them, so they can leave the car and gradually join other modes of transport, and interconnecting with other people, and really showcasing this intermodality of me solving different issues for different types of citizens, rather than it's just to bring people closer to the city center or to solve their small shorter distance commute in the city center. So I really think
enabling the shared mobility that Joanna
exactly
mentioned.
exactly exactly.
So again, I without wanting to speak a lot because we're already running out of time, as you said, I think in the short term, the focus is, as I said, the safety and our feeling, which is a very human feeling, to be as close as to what we considered normal until now. But in the long term, I'm very convinced that we are going to be greener. Definitely multimodal, shared, and greener. Whatever this means, meaning green doesn't mean no technology. It means technology serving the purpose. It means economic growth while understanding the priority and the importance of green mobility, of not destroying the environment. So I don't believe that we will ever go back to how things were before, good or bad, but I think we can make it better. We definitely can, and we should.
Well, I don't want to be the pessimist in the in the panel. I am concerned in the short term. I am very concerned with collective public transport. I was speaking with a bunch of public operators, and we are in the short term. We are very concerned because there's no other way. On our previous meeting, I was telling them, but what kind of new thing can you put on the bus to make people feel safe? And there's not anything, or there's not much that you can do. You can have a limit to the people that get on board. Instead of 50, maybe 25. But what else? There's not much to do. And cities and governments have spent funds to get cars out of the cities and to promote the public transportation. And in the near future, I'm very concerned. But I agree with Joanna. There's no turning back. It's impossible. So once we are able to see our friends again and to have our lives back, there's no turning point. Definitely the cars will get out of the city, and definitely people will have to move themselves between in the city in different modes.
Agreed. And pessimistic or not, it was a pleasure to have you all in this panel. Thank you so much once again on behalf of Ubiwhere and TICE that are organizing these sessions. We hope that for future sessions we will be physically in a nice sunny day outside having this talk and enjoying coffee break and other social events afterwards, because we deserve it with such bright ideas for the future. So thank you very much once again. For all the viewers, I hope you enjoyed the session. Feel free to hit the positive buttons below, so the like and subscribe icons, and we'll try to be in touch with you to make sure that you stay up to date with our sessions and updates from Quadrilatero, from Ertico, and other participants we will have. So thank you once again very much, and I hope to see you soon, very soon, and safe. Take care.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.